Hugh Freeze the king of Alabama recruiting now that Saban is gone? Let's talk about it. Nick Saban has decided to run from the freeze warning about to hit the state of Alabama. Looks like he couldn't take the heat or the cold. Just kidding. Saban is the GOAT, and the rest of college football is releasing a collective side now that he's kind of gone. But what does this mean for Auburn moving forward, and can Hugh Freeze keep this up? This cycle, Auburn brought in what some are saying is the best receiver class in school history. For the first time since the advent of modern-day recruiting, Auburn has brought in 2 top 50 players in the same class at the same position. That's crazy for Auburn. I'll go one step further. In the modern-day recruiting era, Auburn has failed to recruit and sign even one top 50 receiver. So this class ends a long drought for Auburn recruiting at that position. Hugh Freeze set his mind primarily on one task when he came to the Plains: recruit, and recruit some more. Brian Harsin took a lot of heat for his perceived lack of enthusiasm around recruiting. Hugh Freeze said, "No sir, not me." Let's take a look at how prolific this receiver class actually is. This year's class is highlighted by the number 5 overall rated player in the country, Cam Coleman, followed by Perry Thompson at number 38 overall, Malcolm Simmons at 150 overall, and Bryce Kane right behind him at 159. Sheesh. First to commit, Bryce Kane said yes to Marcus Davis and Hugh Freeze and tied the knot in June of 2024. After that, the dominoes started to fall. In July of 2023, Perry Thompson told Nick Saban, "I think we need some space," and decommitted from Alabama. Soon after, he committed to Hugh Freeze at Big Cat Weekend. The players pretty much threw Hugh Freeze in the pool to celebrate Thompson's commitment. Now, Auburn also made an offer to Benjamin Russell High School's Malcolm Simmons, and he said yes the same weekend. Last, but certainly not least, Cam Coleman decided to reconsider his position with Texas A&M after Jimbo Fisher got canned. Without Fisher and the man behind the man, Damian Craig, A&M had no shot, and Coleman committing to Auburn became an inevitability. In December, Marcus Davis took a trip to Cam Coleman's house, and as my guy Pablo Escobar would like to say, Cam Coleman, you are an Auburn Tiger. Now, while Freeze obviously deserves a ton of credit, so does second-year receiver coach Marcus Davis. Marcus is no stranger to the receiver position and was a fairly prolific player at Auburn back in the day. Being able to relate to kids on this level paid dividends for Auburn, and bam, there you have it. The best receiver haul in the country, and it's not particularly close. Now that they have the talent, Auburn has to figure out how to get these guys on the field and get them playing time. With the QB position in doubt, does Auburn have 2 700-yard receivers, and does one of them come from this year's receiver haul? Let me know in the comments after the video if you think Auburn can have 2 700-yard receivers in 2024 and which 2 receivers you think that'll be. While you're at it, visit goldenscastiron.com and get your weight up with Golden's cast iron dumbbells and kettlebells. We love them at Golden's for sponsoring this segment, and you should too. Good is Hugh Freeze's first receiver recruiting haul. I'm here with Ceasear Walker to talk a little bit about Hugh Freeze in his first full recruiting class, Ceasear. Woo. Four top 150 players, 2 in the top 50 in the country. So Cam Coleman obviously is the star of the class. Let's just start there with him. How amazing is it that Auburn got a top 5 player in the whole country?
Not only is it amazing that we got a top 5 player, but you got a kid down the street at Phoenix City who we've been struggling to get a kid from that area. So obviously it was a sign of something new with Freeze on the Plains, getting someone talented. And he's already alluded to the fact that he needs a guy with a large catch radius. Cam Coleman has all that and then some.
What was the kid that got out of Phoenix City a few years back, went to Clemson? Was it Justin Ross?
I think so.
Ross,
Yeah.
Them rate like Alabama and Clemson and Georgia rating Phoenix City for talent. You know, 20 minutes up the road from Auburn, it had to stop on the freeze, didn't it? Like, how embarrassing would it have been for them to come in and just take players right out of their backyard?
It's more embarrassing when Clemson does it. Like, you can almost understand when Bama does it, Saban, the dynasty, the whole nine, but Dabo? No. So I'm glad that he was able to at least put a fence around these areas that are close to Auburn.
Yeah, Dabo need to stay his goofy ass in South Carolina and just leave Auburn's backyard alone. Which one sees the field first? Cam Coleman or Perry Thompson?
Cam Coleman. I mean, and we've talked about this before, how important it is for kids to enroll early.
Yeah.
Get into the strength and conditioning program. Begin spring ball, compete at that play. It's hard to do it when you're enrolling in the summer because everything is so new, right? Yeah. With Cam Coleman, by the time Perry Thompson touches down, Cam Coleman is already integrated in, right? So he kind of already knows where he stands. He knows what he needs to work on, and he's spending his time in the summer doing what he needs to do to see the field.
Yeah, look, I felt pretty strongly there was no way Cam Coleman was going to flip, right? Brian said it all on the show. He was like, well, if Jimbo gets fired. And I was like, yeah, but who's going to pay $76 million to get rid of Jimbo? A&M would pay it.
A&M, absolutely.
Like, to add insult to injury, they had a check donated for like twice his buyout the weekend before. They like presented it on the field. This is a true story. They had a check for twice his buyout.
Is Jimbo in the locker room?
Yeah. They wanted him to see. They like flaunted the check. This is your buyout. We know money's flying everywhere with NIL. So like Auburn clearly had to match the bag to get Cam in, right? Like, they had to match the bag.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, this is big boy recruiting.
Yeah.
And now it's just legal. So it's definitely money is flying now. Yeah. And I think for Auburn to really win these recruiting battles, to go toe to toe and actually get their fair share of wins, they got to do what some of these big programs are doing. Right. And so Cam Coleman doesn't come. He's not going to get him on a discount.
Yeah.
Not how high his stock is. So these guys, NIL plays a big part, and Auburn has been positioned going into year one under freeze to be able to compete with some of these larger programs.
Bryce Cain and Malcolm Simmons, no slouches, both top 150 players. Depending on what recruiting service you're looking at, I think maybe Malcolm Simmons is just like 158 or something like that.
Right.
But super talented. You've got a pretty good receiver haul. Now, Auburn fans spare no expense at criticizing wide receiver play last year. Right. And, Jay Fair was in there. He was probably Auburn's best receiver along with Javarius Johnson. Those two, Hugh Freeze openly came out and said, those are my best two receivers. We talked about whether Cam Coleman will likely see the field. Let's look at it from another angle. What happens if you don't see the field this year?
Okay, so here's what needs to happen if they don't see the field. Wide receiver play needs to be so good with the guys who are already on campus to where these young guys know, okay, I'm willing to wait my turn until I can get in there and show what I'm doing. What doesn't need to happen is wide receiver play is not good and those guys aren't on the field.
Yeah. The portal changes the math.
Absolutely.
If you're Freeze, there's some pressure, I think, maybe to get opportunities at least for these guys in year one, because if they can't see it, they could bounce on you.
So this is the gift and curse of having top 10 recruiting classes.
Yep.
It speeds up the timetable for you to get your stuff together on the field in terms of on the field product. Now Hugh Freeze has to really show a competent offense. In other words, good wide receiver play is going to be an outcome of a good system you have in place.
Yeah.
So QB play, O-line play, all your coordinators, your game, how you call games. This now has to be fixed this year because you got kids who already know I am one of the hottest, most talented players in the country.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wait 2-3 years to just wait for you to get it together.
Yeah. Emory, I want to thank you for joining me. Let's jump right in here. You were part of an undefeated squad. And you know what it takes to play receiver at this level. These kids coming up, man, I want to open just asking you what advice you have for kids wanting to play receiver in the SEC. Like, what things did you learn playing with Cam, that propelled you to be the best receiver you could be?
Yeah, first off, thanks, Mike, for having me on. It's an honor. I've watched your show before, and I keep up with Auburn football just as much as any other fan does. Now I'm a fan, and I want to see our program succeed. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, being a receiver in the SEC, I would say the first thing I learned is that I had to be physical. I couldn't shy away from contact. I couldn't shy away from getting hit when the ball was in the air. Even though I wasn't the biggest guy, I was a tough guy. I was in the trenches. I was blocking backers. I was blocking safeties coming down. Big guys, whether it was Ogletree or Sean Williams or guys from LSU. I remember Chad Jones gave me a good lick my freshman year, and those are big guys. Guys that are 6'3", 230 pounds plus. So me being at 185 at the time, I really had to learn how to be physical and still be the hammer and not the nail. The next thing I would say is number two is our number one job as a receiver is to catch the rock. I think a lot of guys get tied up in route running, which is great. And it's important to be a technician. But if you don't catch the rock when it gets to your hands, it's all for naught, right?
Yeah.
So just being relentless and being consistent at catching the ball and getting on the jug machine and making sure you picture yourself in certain situations where the ball is coming to you. How are you going to react? How are you going to catch the ball? How are you going to defend it from the defender? And how are you going to beat that defender back to the ball?
You're working with kids now, right? So when you're teaching a kid and you're training a kid, what are the fundamentals? What are you starting with? How are you teaching them to build a foundation for being a good receiver?
Yeah, like I said, catching the ball first is the most important thing. So I always ask them what they catch the ball with, and most people are going to say their hands. So I ask them to close their eyes and try to catch the ball, and they end up like wincing and putting their hands up. But my reasoning behind that is to get them to say, "Look, coach, I'm going to catch with my eyes, so I'm going to follow the ball and focus the ball into my hands." So that is one of the foundational things I like to teach as being a receiver coach.
You come from a football family. Your dad is a former NFL quarterback. What kind of things did he teach you that helped you get ahead in the game?
A lot of things with technique, how to get off the jam, how to understand leverage and how to be a route technician, how to study the game, how to know secondaries, how to find the windows in the zone, how to run away from man coverage, how to stair step. He taught me a lot, and it definitely gave me an upper hand in high school and really helped me throughout my college and pro career.
Yeah. What an advantage, I think, man, to have a dad who, could essentially guide you in that process as you're becoming a receiver.
No doubt.
Hugh Freeze has been hot on the recruiting trail, Emory. Let's talk about recruiting. Auburn's not known for top level receivers, but you went there as a kid of a former NFL quarterback. Why Auburn? What made you choose Auburn?
Yeah, Malzahn was a big piece for me coming to Auburn. Actually, he was the one who. He was one of the first coaches to actually call me and offer me a scholarship in high school. It was right after my sophomore season, I think. And he was at Tulsa at the time. I actually went and go visit Tulsa. Wasn't a fan of Tulsa, but I was a big fan of Malzahn.
Okay.
Still my guy to this day. He texted me last week, so I'm still close to him. But I was kind of on the fence between Texas Tech and Colorado, and Malzahn ended up calling me about 2 months before signing day and, wanted to let me know that he had a bigger stage and he wanted me to come check out Auburn. And I did. And, I just fell in love with the tradition, the fans, the players that were there, Cody Burns, Q Carr. I met Nosa Igwe, all those guys are still my brothers to this day. On my official visit to Auburn. So I just fell in love with it. And, signing day came, I signed to Auburn. It was the best decision of my life.
They had to recruit you the old school way. You had to actually like Auburn to come to Auburn. These days, kids have NIL, and then if it doesn't work out, there's a portal. I want to ask you a question. I asked Jason Campbell this, and I want to ask you, if the portal exists today as back then as it does today, do you think that you finish your career at Auburn Tiger?
It's very hard to say because my freshman year, it was tough. It was tough to adjust. It was tough being away from home. I was a different guy. I talked differently. I walked differently from majority of the guys that were from the South in Auburn. But, at the end of the day, once my teammates knew who I was and saw how I worked and saw how I could ball, and what I brought to the table, the respect was earned. And I think a lot of guys that, go somewhere and it's different for them, it's difficult for them their freshman year, which it is for most people, whether you're close to home, far from home. Anything takes time that's worth to build and grow into. So it's hard to say. Would I have stuck it out? Would I have transferred if that was that was there? It's really tough to say, but it's tough on these guys now. Just having that option, and the whole NIL money thing is a whole different beast. Something that we didn't have to deal with in college, so it's kind of foreign to me. But I'm still kind of learning the process as I go. But it's a wild time in college football.
Well, let's talk about the bag for a second. Again, you recruited to Auburn because of Gus Malzahn, and you actually liked Auburn. But what if Alabama was on the other end saying, Emory, we got a winning culture and we got $100,000 bag for you as well, too. I mean, do you think that would have swayed your decision back then?
Most definitely. Money talks. that's the way. Yeah, that's the way the world works. If you have a chance to provide for your family at 17, 18 years old and make money, why not do it? So I'm absolutely happy that the players have the likeness to their name. I think it's kind of a little of the wild, wild west out there with the transfer portal and kind of open season on the money game. But for guys to be able to have that and be able to make money and provide for themselves and their families, I think it's something that we always wanted when we were in college, because we knew the work that we put in was a lot. We knew we made the university a lot of money, but at the same time, in that moment, we had nothing to show for it. Besides, the pageantry and the wins, but personally, individually, financially, we didn't have anything to really fall back on. So I'm glad that is the case nowadays.
Before we get out of here, man, I mentioned earlier, you're working with kids.
Yes, sir.
Tell people about what you're doing now and how they can support you in what you're doing now.
Yeah. So you can follow me at Finesse Receiver Club on Instagram. That's my receiver page. My actual page is Emory Blake. You can follow me there as well, Emory_Blake on Instagram. But yeah, man, I specialize in technique coaching and skills training when it comes to receivers. And I do it here in the state of Texas. I've joined, I've done some Under Armour camps and, travel around the country and coach some other receivers around the country. So it's something that I enjoy doing. I love, still being able to coach, give back what I know and stay in the game. I also, still lace the cleats up, get to go through drills. So it helps keep me young.
Yeah. Follow Emory on Instagram. Follow us as well. We're at The War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off as always. War Eagle.
War Eagle, baby. Let's go.